Okay, it is August 1st, and we're going to do our first harvest of potatoes. If you remember earlier in the year, the potatoes that I planted were Yukon Golds and some Pontiac Reds and some Kennebuck Whites. This first row here, as you can see, most of the potato plants have kind of died off, which is usually how I know that it's time to harvest them. This first row is the Yukon Golds. Yukon Golds are an early variety of potatoes, and actually I cheated a little bit in that the past couple weeks we've pulled a couple plants here and there just to see if they were ready, and the potatoes were great. The good thing about potatoes is that when they're ready to harvest, if you're not ready to harvest, you can let them stay in the ground for a little bit, and really the only thing that's going to happen is, at least in my experience, the only thing that's going to happen is the top of the plants are going to kind of shrivel up and die a little bit. It's not blight, it's just the plant dying because it's time for it to be harvested. As you can see, the plants in the front, down in here, these all look like they're kind of dying back, whereas the ones in the middle aren't quite as far there. And then if you look, the ones in the back are still nice and green. The ones in the back are the whites. So let's harvest some potatoes. All right, hopefully this works. We're going to, the thing that's fun about harvesting potatoes is you never really know what's underneath the ground until you pull it up. So some people use a fork or a spade to harvest their potatoes. I just like to grab the stems, and remember this was just one seed potato that sent all this growth up. I just like to grab the stems and just pull up and see what's under here. And there's some potatoes. A couple here. Here's a nice one here. Make sure you keep those little ones, because those little ones, the little ones are really tasty. And dig your hands in, and there's more potatoes. And you want to dig your hands all the way down and around, and you'll keep finding more and more potatoes. And again, this is all just one plant. Don't forget the little ones. Dig your fingers all down underneath, because they can send those tubers out all over the place. And don't forget that I buried these as they went in the ground, so I want to really get my hands down as deep as I can into that loose soil to make sure I get them all. So let's see what we got there. This is our first potato plant, and we get some nice size potatoes. They all look nice and clean. No rotting marks. We got some nice little ones. Save those. Those are yummy in stews. Here's one little one that's got a little hole in it, so I'll just throw that in the woods. And another little one. So that's not a bad take for our first potato plant. Alright, so that's our harvest of Yukon Gold potatoes. To be honest, not quite as many as I thought I would get. I think the dry weather the past month probably cut down on the size for some of them, and maybe the quantity, but those will still taste pretty good. And what was nice to see was there was no disease in any of these fruits. Any of these potatoes. They all came out of the ground nice and clean, no rotting, no soft spots, just nice, good size Yukon Gold. So what we're going to do now is these will be cured in the basement for 8 to 10 days, so anywhere between like 60 and 70 degrees. You don't want to wash them. You don't want to wash potatoes when they're right out of the ground unless you're going to use them right away. But I think what we're going to plan on doing is let these cure, and then we'll wash them up, and we'll probably grind up some for shredded potatoes to use from the freezer, and just eat some fresh. Yukon Golds are great for mashed potatoes. So that's one harvest. I got 2 more harvests of potatoes to go. Well, no one's ever going to accuse me of being patient, so I decided to harvest the reds too. And I actually got a a pretty good harvest out of the reds. I'm glad I harvested them because you can tell that they are just as big, if not a little bit bigger, than the Yukon Golds. I actually got a little bit more. So that's our potato harvest. If I swing around, you can see what's left in the potato field. You see the area that I dug out, and that last row is the row of whites. And I did dig up one plant, and there were some small potatoes under it, but they are far away from being ready, so those at least have a couple more weeks.